pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Vanderhook.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Howard. Any additions to today's agenda?
I just talked to you about the downstairs, but you said you could do that under courthouse, so. Courthouse offices.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any corrections to the January 30th, 2024 minutes? Hearing none, I'd take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve January 30th.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider an act on setting bond for county officials per Iowa Code Chapter 64.
Okay. So as many of you may have been made aware over the past couple of weeks, it has come to our attention that we as a county and many other counties, seems maybe the majority of counties in the state, need to set bond and have that bond approved by a district court judge for all elected officials. It appears from county records and Rochelle's research, among other folks, that we don't have any bond set which satisfies the Iowa Code for the currently serving 10 elected officials in this county. And so what we're here to ask the board to do today would be to give myself, Rochelle, and the good folks from HP Insurance the approval to solicit quotes from several companies as to bonds, the cost for bonds, and arrangements for bonds for each of the elected officials and the assessor and engineer as well, if necessary, as listed on the materials you gentlemen have been given. My understanding of reading the code and having spoken with folks statewide, as well as at the Attorney General's office, is that this is something we must do. It's not a choice. It is a shall situation, and it needs to be taken care of promptly. The good news is that there are plenty of other counties around this state. In fact, I would say a majority of the ones that at least the folks at the Attorney General's office have spoken with seem to be in a similar situation. So I don't think there's any reason to panic or anything like that, but I think we should promptly go ahead and ask folks working with us at HP to solicit bids on our behalf and bring them before you for the county to engage with the bonding company and send that on to a district court judge for approval.
What about township trustees?
The township trustees, yeah, it's my understanding that the county also needs to pay for those. I don't have any information in front of me on what those limits are, and that's a separate subsection. But if you guys want to go ahead and loop that in and have them solicit bids too, I don't have a problem with that. I actually can look up what the potential bonding limit would be for a township officer. I'm not sure. We haven't been asked directly about soliciting those bonds, but we could also do that. But basically, long story short, I wanted to get here in front of you guys and have you take a look at what they've got for you at HP, what the code says, and two folks are here from HP today to talk. I know that their main question is what amount you guys want to do bonds and if you want to do minimums, kind of in terms of their bonding process turnover, and we could talk a little bit more about those specifics as well.
The township clerk is 5,000.
Yeah. Is that where you've got in chapter 64 there?
Yeah.
Okay.
They got the copy of that resolution from the other county that I got,
Okay.
that I sent forwarded on to you.
Okay, the limits for each supervisor is each at 20,000, county attorney is 20, auditor is 20, assessor is 20, recorder is 20, and sheriff is 20, and treasurer is 50,000. And the compensation for engineer is each up to $5,000. The township clerk, Rochelle, is thinking is 5,000, but Nolan, you're gonna check on
Yeah,
that,
I can
correct?
take a look and let you guys know. I think there's We have that subsection in here, 6412. You can get that number 24.
So we have a couple of companies that we can get some quotes from and bring that back. I'm not exactly sure how long that'll take. Usually turnaround time is about 2 weeks, but this is probably another thing that it's not new. You guys have the crime portion, we just don't have the other part of it, which they kind of refer to as the public bonds. And I would think that, like Nolan said, that's probably something you're gonna wanna act on and pass, so that you're not in jeopardizing of the Iowa Code 64. And you got a letter from Jessica Reynolds kind of explaining all that. And how it came about is ICAP, which is where you have your insurance at, their lawyers discovered that portion, Iowa Code 64, some counties didn't have that. So we need to really look at that. That's a decision you make. Once you decide the limits and what you want, we'll move forward and get some quotes and come back to you. So do you have any other questions? You know, the big thing that we need to know is what limits you want, and if you want to do the bare minimum limits and then maybe another quote with higher limits, that's fine too. But we just need direction on that. We had talked about it a little bit last fall when there was some looking at does it cover under your crime bond, or do you still need the second one? And that's where the lawyers from ICAP came involved and saw that we do need to do the public officials bond as well.
And I don't know if you've read the kind of the difference in the one literature you have, the commercial crime policy, which you already have, is a crime insurance policy that is designed to meet the needs of an organization. Commercial crime policy typically provides several different types of crime coverage, such as employee dishonesty coverage, forgery or alteration coverage, computer fraud, funds transfer, fund coverage, kidnap, ransom, or extortion coverage, money and security coverage, and money orders, counterfeit money coverage. Commercial crime policies may be endorsed with faithfulness performance of duties for specific employee classes, treasurers, auditors, clerks, etc. The public official bond is a bond which the surety guarantees that the certified public official would faithfully perform his or her official duties, including accounting for all funds entrusted to his or her care. So like when you were talking about the treasurer, that's a bond saying that, or the engineer, he's gonna faithfully perform his duties, or any other official. That's where the public official bond, you know, and there's a lot of similarities, but there's little differences, so that's where they're coming with the public official bond.
Is this something we have to do every year then for the board to approve, or if we just do it once, we're done, or how's that work?
Maintain it. The language is very antiquated, right? They're talking about bond books, and you and I talked about previously, what does that mean? It probably references back to when people that sold bonds were going around with forms in triplicate with the counties, where with the company's logo on it and all that, and writing bonds out by hand. What that means for us today, I think, is that we need to maintain and have a bond. I don't think that a judge needs to approve it yearly from the language of the code, but I do think that we need to have that bond solicited, bought, and approved by a district court judge, maintain record of it, and pay for it, whatever the maintenance cost is per year. And I think that would satisfy our obligations here. And also Ed had mentioned the township clerks. Just for point of clarification, I'm guessing you guys probably already realize this, but we need to make sure the township clerks have bonds, but the townships pay for those, so.
They already give us $15 a year for liability insurance. We'll just up it to include whatever their bond is.
And I think that's reasonable. So really just kind of asking for someone to make motion to direct myself, Rochelle, and HP to solicit bonds, really more HP to solicit bonds and us to work with them. And then in a couple weeks, or even depending on the time frame,
Right.
next week's meeting maybe, if that's possible.
Right, we'll try to get it as soon as we can. Unfortunately, with companies, we have an application, so we'll meet with Rochelle, get that information, send that off, and then at that point, it kind of gets out of our hands. And, you know, they'll do the best they can as fast as we can, but can't always get them back as quickly as we want, but we'll certainly do the best we can.
I certainly am okay with the minimums, since we have the insurance coverage already. I think I know your answer to this, but could you up the bond amounts and drop or eliminate the insurance coverage then, or do those?
Well, they're two different policies. I mean, they're two different policies. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're one policy with the endorsement for the public official. So you can't get rid of the crime policy.
And
Right, but if the exposure is less because bonding covers more of that, would that affect the
You'll
premium?
have to keep your criminal where that's at. You can up that if you want, but you still have to have the public officials bond.
You
So it's a
can,
two-part.
you can maybe lower the limits, because your crime policy,
Your crime policy is, on forgery, you have 100,000 with the $500 deductible, premises 100,000, computer crime is 250,000, and fund transfer is 250. I can't imagine you'd want to look at lowering those. If anything, maybe on renewal, you might want to look at increasing those. I mean, cybercrime is insane right now. And maybe that's something you want us to look at when we're talking on this, when your renewal comes up this summer, what possibly increasing those would be. I can't imagine lowering any of those coverages.
and, whenever we quote these or look at lower limits, you're talking minimal dollars. It's surprising. If you think you're gonna save a bunch of money, that's not gonna happen.
And I would concur with what has been said there about lowering anything else in your other bonds, especially when you talk about computer crime, forgery, and potential premises liability. All those are things where there's a really great chance that at some point over the bond's life, you will make a claim on that. Kidnap, ransom, and extortion, well, heaven forbid that we ever have to make a claim on that. That's a little more remote of a possibility. But those other things I mentioned, I think it's worth keeping things where they're at right now, or considering raising it a little bit.
I just have a quick question. We're looking into getting another layer of security for phishing emails and stuff. Would that help our insurance quotes at all if we did
So
something like that?
some companies will offer, and I'll check into ICAP too, some of them they'll give you like credits towards that or
Okay.
discount for, security purposes.
Okay.
So on your renewal, we'll bring that you're doing that. Was that something you'd have in place by summer?
We're thinking July 1st.
July, okay.
Is having
Yeah.
the budget. There's two different options where the board's considering. I'm getting more information on, but, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'd take a motion to proceed with getting some
I'll make
quotes.
that motion.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's to leave the minimum limits then, is that right?
Okay.
Include township clerks?
We'll include quotes for the township clerks and then those minimums on the handout that we gave as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good day.
One of them, you guys need to manage the budget. Hopefully I'll be able to come down with the student report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Receive and accept County Emergency Medical Service Systems Advisory Council Annual Report.
Can you make copies of that? Your quarterly report, because I can make copies too if you didn't.
There should be steps
Okay.
or something. I just was gonna keep one.
I'll go make another copy for myself.
So with this new tax levy, part of it is that we needed to come up with a report to just show, to kind of fill in the Board of Supervisors what we had been spending the tax levy money on. Right now, the tax levy, since we'll be getting a portion of it in March, the way I'm understanding, the tax levy money should come up to $277,346. Am I correct with that, right? So my budgeted amount was $259,89. However, in this general basic line, the $25,865, those are items that we cannot use the tax levy money for. And the general basic is picking up those items. And if you look on page 2, you'll see those items: postage, office supplies, employee mileage, telephone, and then we put the PCC billing and coding in that also. So right now, 75% of that tax levy money goes for salary, the wages for the EMTs, FICA, any IPERS that is being paid out, and of course the insurance. So that's a big portion of the money. It's like $176,000.
Where's the breakdown for that?
Pardon?
Where's the breakdown for that?
Okay. Well, I can get that stuff for you. I just lumped it all together.
Because they're all separate lines. I mean, how much were wages?
I can't tell you that right off the top of my head,
How
but I
much was
do have.
insurance?
Mhm.
I have that, hold on a minute.
I've been praying money actual breakdown, but Rochelle probably did.
Just because I have the budget amendment stuff, so you know I got it. Okay, so as of end of January, it's probably about a little under 100,000. This column here for 24, 25.
Where it says used, yeah.
You don't have it, that's not the most up-to-date version, because that was printed in,
January 12th.
yeah, and this is January 31st. So wages, we roughly have about $100,000 spent in wages for like Sandy's salary, the ambulance crew. Oh, we probably got more like 100 part-time. We probably have more like 110,000, and we're doing a budget amendment for those wages because we don't have enough. FICA was like 7,391. IPERS was 9,167. Health insurance is 14,900 roughly. But yeah, we can get you more of a breakdown for those.
All here.
What we had budgeted,
So
yeah.
if you did divide the 176 into the 277,346, you would see it's like maybe 65% of that. But overall, if you it end up being close to 75%, which is part of the tax levy was to make, to pay the EMTs to respond and to pay them a wage that they would be willing to stay on. The rest of the 25% is for equipment, radio, education, hardware, medical supplies, miscellaneous, and cleaning is in there. Part of that hardware, 7370, is for, we do a maintenance, we have a maintenance agreement that comes out, and that's for our life pack. That's around $6,800. They usually come out in June to do that, so we allocated that for there. As you can see, for equipment, we're over budget right now by $3,000. We ended up putting in a $10,000 rebuilt engine, correct? Or remounted engine. Medical supplies, yeah, that's, just weren't anticipating the cost of that stuff going up that high. Education is over. We had, we paid half of the tuition for a paramedic, or for an EMT to take the paramedic program. That was $4,800. And then we have paid for one person to, for his coursework at the EMT level, and that was close to $2,000.
What all falls into miscellaneous?
Pardon?
What all falls into miscellaneous?
Mostly that miscellaneous is, oh, let me see, would be. Good question.
Want me to go look it up?
Yeah,
So I can go look it up. Give me a minute.
probably know that, no.
Yeah, I'll look at the line item again.
Yeah.
We get reimbursed
Okay.
at all for medical supplies.
But part of the reason the wages are a little bit higher, we did 614 runs last year, and, you know, that
Now, the medical,
takes up a lot of wages.
the medical supplies, now do the insurance companies reimburse us for that? They don't?
Not all the time. It depends on if it's an accident. But Medicare, which is 85% of our revenue, no, if it's a flat rate, doesn't matter what you give them, do for them. We are getting a little bit more money back from people that are on Medicaid due to that GEMT grant that we fill out every year. When we first started, we were getting like an extra $231, and now it's up to $531 or something like that. So if they qualify for Medicaid, then we get that extra, but then we end up paying a portion of that back, as you guys will see. And I think part of that too is in, for miscellaneous, they probably have paid for that. So also in the back page too, while we're waiting for Michelle, I did my projected revenue. We set that at 200,000, and it's at 110, but that's toward the end. That's the end of December, and we're always like 1 month behind. So
What does that all include, projected revenue, what does that all include?
yeah, that is with just anything, everybody that pays their ambulance bill, that all goes in there. If there is,
Would that be Medicare and insurance companies and that kind of stuff?
right. And like I said, we did 614 runs, and a lot of them were billable. So we are seeing extra revenue coming in now from that. But so I pretty much will have understated that $200,000. Oh, okay.
Can we,
All right.
okay, the levy's gonna be
So-
approximately 277,
Yeah.
and say approximately 200 coming in from projected revenue. Now, the extra money, shouldn't we put that in a separate account for ambulances coming up and that kind of stuff? I would think. And that way it'd take the general basically out of the picture. You know what I mean, Rochelle?
For ambulances, right?
For any emergencies that come up, well, like that engine, we could have taken that out of there. Just have a separate account so that money stays with the ambulance. Well, that's my thought, I'd like to see
Michelle's
those.
thinking.
I'm thinking.
That's kind of scary.
I know, it's really scary. No, I think we can do that. I think in the past, we've had separate funds that we transferred from general into that fund, more like a savings account for like ambulances, or I know we had one for when our generator was going out. We had separate funds for that. It's all under the general fund and reporting, but you're just transferring it to save up money for stuff like that.
I was
So
just looking at that, and after, say, 3 years or so, we could come real close to just buying an ambulance with that money.
I think we would have to delegate it or
Yeah.
to what for.
Ask Dave how we could do that.
I think we've done that in the past. I'm pretty sure we could do that. Just put so much money away every year for
I'd
ambulances.
like to see that extra money stay in there. But that's my thought.
Is it anticipating using the full 45-cent levy
What do you mean?
projected?
Yes, for this next fiscal year. I have it in the 45 cents in there.
Yeah. Which we're projected for 282 next year.
I believe so.
I think that's what you had
I
told me.
know it went up because our valuations have gone up.
Yes, it's like 282 for next year.
Well,
But
293, 289 is what we're projecting.
But I know I have my budget at that 331, 349, but I put in for the half of that rig, and that was 130,000. Is in that 331, 349. Verlin is here. He has some information on that, on buying an ambulance now versus waiting 5 years or 12 years or.
Yeah, just to kind of give everybody a little update of where we're at. Currently, we have 6 units throughout the county, ranging in age from 1995, which is 29 years old, to a 2021, which is only 2 years old. But we have several, there's 2 of them, a 95 and a 97. You're looking at 27 and 29 years old units out there. Really, I think in Osceola County, we kind of go above and beyond with the life expectancy of an ambulance. An ambulance averages about 10 to 14 years lifespan. We got to not kick the can down the road. It's time to start updating our fleet. Certain states, I'll just name Nebraska here as one of them. Nebraska now requires that every 15 years ambulances be rotated out, and so no service in the state of Nebraska can have a vehicle that's more than 15 years old. And they do that for safety concerns and outdated technology for patient care in the back of the rigs. So I think, what Mike had stated, setting money aside on a regular basis to rotate these trucks and keep them refreshed and new is a very wise decision.
Isn't there a 20-year limit on a box where you can pick it up and put it on a different?
Yeah, we can take, Arrow will not take a box off and refurb it if it's more than 20 years old. So yes, you're correct on that. So we did look at new versus used. So we got a quote from Braun Northwest. They sell what's called a North Star emergency vehicle. Those on a new build, that's a brand new truck, brand new box, everything's brand new. Those run between $290,000 and $300,000. That's a Type 3 ambulance that's fully equipped with the cot lift and everything that we would need. What we've been doing in the past and what we would wish to continue to do is we work with Aero Manufacturing over in Rock Rapids, and what we've been getting is what's a new chassis with what's called a Gen 2 box. That's where they've taken a box off of a unit that maybe was a couple 100,000 miles from another city, but the box was within that 20-year limit. They pulled the box off, they totally refurbed the box, and they remount it down on a brand new chassis. We've done that with our last 3 purchases. It saved Osceola County a lot of money. What we're looking at right now is $247,900. That's a refurbished box, brand new forward E-Series chassis. Arrow has about a 1-year lead time on them. So if we were to say put half in the budget that Sandy's proposing, we would put half down on July 1 of 2024, and then their build cycle would be about a year out. So the ambulance really wouldn't be ready until July of 2025. And that's where we could do the second half payment for that vehicle. So, you know, our call volume is up. If you look at just going back 15, 20 years ago, the age of some of these rigs, we were only doing about 300 calls a year. Now we're doing 612 calls a year. So, want to give you guys one more piece of information, I guess. I tried to compare us to somebody close locally. Sioux Center Ambulance, they're a city-owned entity, but they do run about 650 calls a year, and they have their trucks on a 12-year cycle where every 12 years they replace them. So just to kind of give you guys some background, a little bit of where we're at. I think it's important. I guess I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was important. I'm a taxpayer too, so I know that this comes out of my tax dollars, but I think it's time to refresh a couple of these trucks that are getting up there in age. So that would be, and I'm open to any questions that any of you may have too in regards to any of the things that I mentioned.
What would be your plan for who would get what?
I don't know that we have a specific plan yet. Generally, you know, the highest call volume is handled with the rigs out of Sibley. We typically take one of the trucks from Sibley and move them to one of the towns that has smaller quantities of calls. When you're looking at, say, like Mace City, you know, you're looking probably 6 to 10 calls a year. Ashton is
Probably 45.
Yeah.
And so is Ocheyedan. Ocheyedan and Ashton are pretty high, you know, about the same, and Melvin's probably 25, 30 calls in there.
The mileage of Ocheyedan's is high, and the mileage in Melvin and May Cities is low, but the one
Because the odometer doesn't work.
but the one in Ocheyedan has more miles. How would you? To me, the one with the most miles should be, you know, out of the three, but then you're back to, we got older ambulances, but
right. The box that's on the one in Ocheyedan is a newer box, even though it does have the most miles on it. It is quite a bit newer box. That's a 2010 compared to a 99, or a 97, excuse me. 97 and 95 was the other two. You know, I don't know that we have a specific plan. We do know the one in Melvin, the 97, has been giving us quite a bit of mechanical issues, even though it is the lower mileage. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I noticed that the odometer doesn't work on it, so I don't know if we know what the true mileage is on that vehicle. So, but yeah, I think the county this year alone has spent quite a bit of money on that vehicle in repairs.
Mm-hmm.
Could, with Melvin, and I know we talked about this, that transit van, could we set that up and take that over to Melvin till we get another vehicle? Is that a possibility?
It would come out of like transport status then, and it would only be a first response vehicle.
Yeah.
That's
And
certainly.
we use that for
I would do
our
that.
behavioral health transfers. And so if we had a behavioral health, then we would have to drive over and grab that, because those E450s are too gas hog to be driving them to, you know, Carroll, Iowa.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
You know, I know we're responders short in some areas of the community, but like in August, and Jerry, you were present, we had that crash by the water tower on 59. We were able to get enough responders and it was nice having the vehicle close. We utilized Melvin's rig, we utilized May City's rig, we utilized about every rig in the county that day. And so even though the responders may be limited in an area, we are able to grab that truck, and we have resources that come from other areas of the county, and we're able to use them throughout the county. It is nice having those vehicles placed where they are placed.
And I think each town should have their own.
You know, I guess one last thing that I failed to mention, Arrow has told us, as well as Braun has told us, that, you know, everything keeps getting more expensive, so in a year from now, we can look at probably another $30,000 onto those prices. Chassis are going up, and equipment in the boxes are going up, so.
If we tell them, yes, we're gonna buy one, will they lock in the price?
Yes, they were going to lock in that price.
Yes, they will.
The one thing we had in that quote was $5,000 down to hold a chassis, because they're concerned we won't be able to hold a chassis. But other than that, it would be $5,000 down to hold the chassis, and then they would lock in that price, and that would be good through July of 2025 when we picked up the vehicle.
How do you keep something on a maintenance schedule with a busted odometer?
Well, right now, the state requires us to have a DOT inspection done every year on those rigs. We also employ Dee Hanlos. She goes out because of the lack of responders. She's gone out like monthly, and she'll pull the rigs out of those garages. She does Ocheden's, Melvin's, and May Cities, and then drives them, because the two of them are diesel, and if you don't run diesel, which I am not a diesel owner, but if you don't run diesels, they stay, sometimes those seals will dry up, and that's where you're going to see a lot of your problems.
I mean, but if the odometer doesn't work, how do you know when to change oil? How do you know how many miles the tires got on them? I mean, just the basic stuff.
You change oil every year?
So we do like a biannual, you know, twice a year.
Right.
They're getting serviced, being pulled in and serviced. That's a recent discovery, that the
Yeah, I don't know.
odometer.
That's been
Yeah.
going on very long.
Right. It's a recent discovery, so.
You can get it fixed.
Yeah, that would be on the maintenance list, yes, correct.
Page 2, the projected revenues, is that the PCC billing revenues,
That's
or
what
is that
we're,
separate?
yeah, most of that is just coming from PCC billing.
That's most of your
That's
revenue.
not,
Yeah.
that's
Besides
not really
grants.
including any of,
Levies.
like, Service Area 3 gives us money, you know, or people have, we put money in there from something else. That's just from PCC.
And that PCC goes into the general fund, not to the EMS.
Right.
And have you figured out with the donations you've got, have you figured out what you're gonna do with them? Are you gonna use that for education, or?
Well, we were, I have talked to the different towns, like Roger over in May City and Melvin area, and then also Mark. They each got a chunk of money from REC, and they're willing to use that money for whatever purposes we need, you know, because we do come over and take care of them, you know. So if we have two individuals that are taking the course over in Melvin, and I believe that when I talked to Roger, he said that probably wouldn't be a problem for them to pay for their, you know, their education over there. So it's $2,000 a piece, so. And they're gonna start that course. They wanna take it in the spring, so that'd be like April or May when they start it. So it would be in this budget year, and I don't, I'm running out of money.
We're gonna, do you do a budget amendment on that? Are we going to, or do we need to?
Yeah. I don't remember, I thought it was either 5,000 that we were gonna put in.
Is that on 422? Is that 422?
Yeah, 422.
Yeah, we have
is
5,000.
education.
We have 5,000 that we're doing a budget amendment for.
So,
I'm just glad to see some people interested in taking the course.
Right.
mhm.
Now, the ones that you, like the one with paramedic, do they have to sign a deal that says they're gonna be on the ambulance crew for 2 years or
Right,
whatever?
right now they do sign it for 2 years, you know.
Otherwise, it's prorated
Of
back.
course, we're always asking to, you know, for the Sibley crew, they have to take so many shifts, you know, and part of that requires the weekends. Where the other towns, they aren't on a schedule, so if they choose to get up and go, they go. Roger's really good about if he's gonna be out of town, you know, he's gonna take off on a vacation or whatever, he always lets us know, so we can let dispatch know that, you know, you can page all you want to over there, but, you know, he's gone, so. I am looking forward, you know, to both those, people from Melvin area to take that course. That will really, and I think Roger's super excited about it too, so. And I do, you know, I don't know if they'll transport as of yet. They might just be where they just go to the scene and stabilize and we'll come in and transport them, you know. I just don't, I'm not really for sure. We haven't really gone that far. We do have an opportunity to have a course that's done here in Sibley in the fall of 2024. If we can get 6 people, and it doesn't have to be from Osceola County, it can be all over. If they can get 6 people signed up, then we can have this course here in Sibley. And so they would meet then on Tuesdays and Saturdays here in Sibley. So, and that's really kind of nice because I think we do have a couple of deputies that are interested in that, taking that course.
And that's where too, it would be important to, as we start to get some staff back over in that Melvin May City area, to make sure we get a fresher, updated vehicle over there for those folks, because as they're responding more, you know, as you use an old vehicle more, the more maintenance adds up on it, so.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I take a motion to accept the report.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Please, that's agenda item 2, maintenance write-off. Please stick around if there's any questions on that, please.
Approved ambulance write-offs. Number 5 on that list, Sandy, they did have a mistake. You have this listed, the following are deceased but no mistake.
Let me give you my list here.
We had 2, was that the,
You can have mine.
okay. That guy right there, for the
Number
1312?
For $1,300.
Okay. That was from May City, and I tried to put something, have PCC, like, attach something because he did have a wife. And he should have had an insurance policy, or she should have been able to sell off his estate. And how they got where he didn't have
Well,
any.
they just sold a chunk of that off here about 4 months ago.
Mhm.
So like the
And
estate
I
was
said-
there to get that money from him.
Yeah. Cause, yeah. I'm having a hard time with that one myself. It's okay. Took a lot of resources and we took a lot of equipment out there. And we, at least pay that back.
Because
Yeah.
even so, the spouse would have been responsible for the bill.
Mhm. I was even, actually trying to put them in the offset program, where we can take their taxes.
What are the steps you go through to try to collect on these?
Well, normally PCC will try for a whole year trying to collect the debt, sending them letters. After a year, then it falls back on me. We send out letters, we can try and take their income tax if they are from Iowa. A lot of our people are, come in here, they have no social security number, because that's how offset works, is through the social security.
Now,
You're through your social security number, yeah.
Couldn't you put it against before their estate is settled? You should be able to do that, because you've got, I think it's 2 months to turn in the bill against the estate.
Yeah, the only way we would not be able to collect on that if she would file bankruptcy. No, we can't touch them.
I think I'd
But
try,
yes, I do have kind of a.
I think I'd try again.
But this is just, because they passed away, the number of calls that we have been taking and seeing is, they have no transportation. As you can see, they walk around our town, walk around all towns. They don't speak our language. And, they call for an ambulance for everything. And then they have no means of being paid. I mean, our debt is high because of those.
This one didn't
Not
have
just
means,
from
so-
these people are deceased, but the number of, you'd be surprised how much our debt is, because you can't, they have no social security, you can't go and, you send them letters to come back because they've moved or they don't. And I know everybody says, well, that's the cost of doing business, but gosh, you can only take so many hits like that.
I'd say the fourth and fifth one we shouldn't.
But that
And
one
we
I know
do,
for
and-
sure was collectible.
Right, these are not collectible.
Number 5 was collectible. There's no way that shouldn't have been collected. There was plenty there,
Okay.
and they still
Well,
have a
that's
residence
what-
there too, so it's a-
That's what I thought. But yeah,
Did they have an estate? Because you don't have to file an estate, right? Unless, when your spouse dies, of course you do, but if it's joint tenancy, you don't have to file anything.
yeah,
I'd say the fourth and
but
fifth
I can
one.
we'll definitely do that.
I'd say you could probably approve.
And
all
some of
those, but
these-
2.
Their insurance paid some of this debt. I mean, it was a lot higher, but this is just what was their responsibility. And of course, they can't pay that. But number 5, that's the whole thing.
I would make a motion to accept them all except number 4 and number 5.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
4 and 5 were not approved.
Discuss fiscal year 23-24 budget amendment.
Okay, I just have a couple questions I need to ask the board before I bring it to the paper on Friday. So Sandy, as she mentioned in her report, we have like a $71,000 budget amendment that we're planning that she needs to the end of June 30. I talked to Dave Noble, I talked to the state. They're okay with us transferring it from general basic into the EMS fund instead of me transferring the expenses back into general. Does that make sense? It said that we could just transfer it into EMS fund and then we can still take the expenses out of the EMS fund. I just wanted to make sure the board was okay with that transfer before I do it. I know you guys had the final say, so I don't want to go through all the expense and then you guys don't like that idea. Another question I have. I talked to John with John from Midwest Construction with the jail, and I wanted to know what our expenses would be until June 30. He said to estimate about $500,000 of money that we would spend. Major part of that is the architect and engineering fee of $270,000. So in this year's budget, we had $400,000 that we were going to transfer into the jail remodeled fund for like a savings account. I talked to Dave DeNoble since the bond passed. He said it doesn't really make sense, which I agreed to transfer it into that fund and then transfer it back out into general to help pay for the jail. So I was going to take that transfer, correct that in the budget amendment that I have, so we won't be transferring in the $400,000 into that fund. Does that make, am I confusing everybody? Does that make sense? Okay. I understand it, but no, when it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't make sense. Just saying. So with that regards, this $500,000, do you want me to take that out of the $400,000 we had in general, or do you want to use ARPA money?
I use ARPA money,
Use that up first. Okay.
just my thought.
Okay. I don't have anything budgeted this year, so I had to budget it.
Don't transfer it out of general and you don't spend it.
It just goes back in the reserves, and I think I have it in next year's budget to spend the $400,000 out of
Or are
general.
we budgeting for 400,000 additionally?
Actually, no, I don't.
I guess I really
Not
don't
in
care
my
which
head,
one,
we're not, but
which one to use first.
But
It's,
if it's an expense, it's
but then we're not. We
something we can
didn't.
levy for. I guess that's how I thought. If it was in the budget again, we'd be,
so as long as it's there, we'll use it.
that was just an expense, you're saying.
Just an expense. But I'm gonna correct the budget amendment explaining we're not doing the transfer, so it just goes back into our fund balance.
I'm thinking whichever one you want to use. I really don't care.
That's not the answer I want. You guys have to
I'd
approve
say
this, not
spend the
me.
400,000 and then if we're paying 500,000, 100,000 comes out of ARPA funds. Going forward, they're still gonna get used, but
Yeah.
that's just the way my mind views it.
I can do whatever. I just need guidance before I put it in the paper.
Jason's idea sounds good to me.
So the 400,000 out of general and then the 100,000 out of, okay,
Let's
Sounds
expend.
fine.
okay. I can do that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Moving on. Approve administrative services agreement, this associate agreement with additional partners. Midwest Group Benefits.
They're already our partners, and I had no one look at the contracts, and he had no issues with it. Just a yearly thing that we have to approve starting July 1st.
Mildly modified because they're now
Yeah,
identified
that's
as
right.
assured partners as well,
Yep.
just Midwest Group Benefits.
Yeah, they had a name change. They just added their name to the documents.
its approval.
Support. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Accept bid for new computer for recording.
Of course, today it's working.
As I say, I haven't
I know,
seen it.
it's working today. I don't know if it's because there's less activity going on or what, but I was misinformed. I thought that $1,200 was for a refurbish, but that's for a brand new computer. And it, I think it has to be more intense than what this one is, and, yeah, it's working today, so, but last week it was not.
So say the last couple
Yeah.
meetings, it hasn't
Yeah, it's
been.
not, no. So I don't know if it's less traffic today or not, I don't know. Or the internet connection, it just depends, I don't know. Depends on the day.
I would say accept the bid.
I would have thought for that price you would have got a 1 terabyte hard drive in that thing rather than 500 gig.
I can ask, they're the ones that suggested, this is beyond me, I don't know what's best.
That video does take up a lot of space, but do you dump it off of there?
We put it on a hard drive, and then that's how we have to download it onto the system. We have to, yeah. It's not the best system, but it's what we got, so.
I don't know computers, so whatever.
Me neither.
I would ask, I'm just curious, like this, I'm sure this is fine, but I would be interested to know what a 1 terabyte solid state drive would run to have in there. But
Okay. I can ask.
So are we just tabling that for now, or?
you can go ahead with it, I think it should have a little bit more memory, but y'all can do what you want.
I would say go ahead and do it, but see if you can get more memory. I'd make that a motion.
So you don't matter, you don't care if it costs, I don't have to bring it back to the board if it costs a little bit more, just do what I have to do, okay?
Unless it's like $5,000 or something, but
Well, yeah.
memory's pretty cheap these days, I wouldn't think it'd be that big of a deal.
Okay.
I'll support that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Because I was told you to 1.425, just the levy special remaining option.
Last year, the code allowed us to use a number of potential reasons for adding to the levies above the 350 for general fund, and we did that. Law changed it so that now there are 2 situations that apply, and it requires an election and voter approval. Kind of shared my thoughts on it before, just thought let's have it on the agenda and see what the board actually thinks. This would keep us in the list of the dirty 30, or maybe the dirty 1. Rochelle loves that idea.
Even if we can do it, we have to talk to our county attorney, because there's some controversy if we
Well, I
can
think
even
we can read.
have it.
She
Regards to the
received concerns from a fellow auditor saying the 2 options listed, unusual problems relating to major new functions required by state law, and unusual need for a new program which will provide substantial benefit to the county. I believe 1 applies. I go back to Senate File 619, when they increased elderly tax credits, or increased the exemptions and credits, and provided no funding. And funny, at the end of the language of the bill, it says, Section 25B.7 subsection 1 shall not apply to this bill. Go ahead and read Section 25B. It says that the legislature cannot extend credits or increase exemptions without providing the funding. And if they do, counties don't have to implement it. Funny, they exempted themselves from that exact language. I guess it may be a legal term, legal maneuver that's they're capable of. But if that doesn't qualify as unusual, I don't know how you define unusual. And if it's not unusual anymore, I'd like it to become unusual again. If they have an issue with that portion of the law, then address that portion of the law and change it. Don't exempt yourself in one little circumstance, or multiple. There are probably others. This is just one
I
I'm
don't know
aware
how you
of.
can't exempt yourself from that.
I find it odd. It's not been challenged. I don't know that we have the right to challenge them, but in my opinion, we have the right to do this step and address our levies in a certain
Yeah,
way.
no one asked for an AG sanction on that.
I think we're gonna have to, because this is such a new law, and I'm not aware of any county that's going to election for this year, that I'm not aware of. I've asked several counties and no one, and I think we need to have further information before we go to an election, personally.
This
But
isn't even the bill that took away the military credit, is it? They used to actually provide
Isn't it?
credit.
I thought it was, but.
This was the previous year. I thought the tax limitation bill last year addressed the
You have to check.
military credit too. But
And I know.
this is one example, and I think there are probably others where they've exempted themselves, but I'm ready to dig my heels in and make a little stand, but
I think you should ask Nolan to request an AG's opinion on that. He has the ability to get that information. He's the only one that can request it.
Well, another thing with this law, you guys have until February 15th to give it to me. 20 days before the election is February 14th. That's the first day you can vote absentee. And the last day that you can request an absentee ballot is February 19th. I wouldn't even have ballot. Any county wouldn't even have ballots if you waited till February 15th. What are they doing?
see if he can come down. I did run this by him,
He
and
has juvenile court, but
yeah,
we
I
can
don't
see.
know if he's necessarily available, but
See?
good. The other idea I'd had was to actually take the step of approving the election, and then in a week or two, taking formal action to dismiss or reverse course, because it's not feasible. I mean, part of me says, well, let's go ahead and go through the motions that they say we have to do if we do this, and then have a case where we say, well, we can't do it because the auditor cannot legally address what's said needs to be done.
I don't know how you can exempt yourself from a shall section of the code. It doesn't make any sense.
So I really don't mind being on the dirty 30 list, because I don't think it was unreasonable or unfair to our citizens. And in fact, the way we did it, it was not a tax burden. It was an offset. It was just generated in a different place than it used to be. And I would consider doing that again. And it's just taking a stance in getting on their radar, I guess.
No one's in
But
court.
I go back to 619, I'd be glad to start calling 64 House of Representative members the dirty 64 then, if we want to start using language. And I don't have the House or the vote for the Senate in front of me, but. So, I don't know, I'm getting on a soapbox, and Rochelle's been stressed to no end because I won't let it die, but.
I prayed this morning to keep my mouth shut when I was supposed to. And speak when I should.
You're keeping up with it?
I'm trying.
Come close a few times.
Maybe you should start praying that I should keep my mouth.
Maybe I should.
I'd be okay with
Maybe I
that.
should. I just respectfully, I agree with you. I know where you're coming from. I get it. But God, we have such a good fund balance that's what scares me. Because we have the fund balance. So then if you try this election, are the legislations going to even make it more stricter somehow because we're
Yeah.
taxing when you don't need it? You know what I mean?
But we're
That makes
not
sense?
taxing more.
No.
We're using what they've given us, I think, in a reasonable manner. I don't think that should be supplemental dollars supporting state mandates.
Yeah, I respect. I
To me,
agree.
the addition to the
But-
basic fund levy is more fitting, because it's unusual that they didn't bother following the law and requiring us to cover changes that they made. That's, to me, supplemental's not as reasonable a use. So it's not a tax burden on our citizens the way we're doing it. And because we have good ending fund balances, makes it available to us. Things are tight. I think it would be harder, or it would be a tax increase on our citizens. But yes, it does make a more difficult case. I don't doubt it, but just go back to define unusual for me then.
I just don't know why other counties aren't doing it, because there's other counties that are way, you know, they're cutting services, they're doing a lot because they don't have it. You know, Keith was stressing out because the engineers were, you know, some counties give more than their minimum for transfers. So some of those engineers are losing less money because there's not the money in the funds to have it. But Keith's never got it, so he's okay. We're still doing the minimum that he needs, so he's good. Hasn't gotten something he hasn't received, but I don't know. I mean, it's a board's decision. I'll do whatever, but I just don't know. I hate to be the first guinea pig.
What if you don't hold the election and just submit your budget the way you want to submit it?
They won't let me. The software won't let me. The software is hard coded that they have it what my projected levy rate is. They won't let me increase it.
And if it doesn't get approved, then what?
I have no idea what will happen. I don't want to find out.
Where's the stick?
It won't let me.
What are you gonna do?
It won't let, because other counties have tried to increase it, they're tried to decrease it, and the software won't let them. So we're at our max. And if we go below what our new max is, then we're gonna have to start taking more out of, put back into general basic and out of general supplemental, or do a transfer, like we're doing it this year. Because right now, $3.42 is our max. That we have, that's our new max. And next year, depending on the valuations, whether it'll go up or down, or stay the same or go down. We're all learning here. It's all trial and error.
Not for the papers, but I'm a little surprised that transfer to supplemental is allowable. I can't get my head around why that works. So you have to be at 350 to use supplemental. So how is sending money from general fund to supplemental a reasonable cost to get you to 350? But I know other counties are doing it, and it's been that.
And we reduce the general supplemental levy because we're transferring into that. And I kept the levy the same as last year as $1. And that's what we did last year. I think we were $1.25, and then we upped it.
You're basically paying it from general fund.
Yeah.
You're just keeping that line open in supplemental. That's what you're
Right.
doing. That's
And
right.
I didn't have
so you're
to-
not having to close lines
Right.
and then reopen
Right.
them when you
Right.
use supplemental. Okay. Those dollars are basically paying towards an election or whatever line it's.
Yeah, it's just going into the fund to help the reserves, or to help the fund balance.
I've never been a trendsetter. I'm not loving stepping out on maybe thin ice, but I don't mind presenting the idea and seeing what you guys think, and we can just keep sitting back and letting them do what they know so much better in Des Moines than we know here, I guess. Because they keep telling us people want property tax relief. People want property tax relief. Really, I've not really had any calls about it. And when we bring up issues for special elections to increase their property taxes, they voted for it. But Des Moines telling us all these reasons that we should have less dollars available to us and we shouldn't do things the way I'm maybe clearly getting beyond fed up.
I can tell you commercial property owners want tax relief, because that's way high.
Everybody wants tax relief. I get that. But then why, when we've addressed 2 votes in the recent years, they voted in favor of property tax increases?
Was it for a new school?
Jail, EMS. Locally, there was strong support for the pool. There have been a number of ways that they say they support it. They could have easily said, heck no, come up, use the dollars you've already got. So.
I think I'd have Nolan ask the AG's office for an opinion on using that, trying to exempt yourself with that. Because I don't know, how would it be unusual? I mean, I don't know what your definition of unusual is.
Well, yeah, define that. It's not listed in the code, I don't believe.
Because usually
How do you
break
define
down those
unusual?
definitions as what is defined as unusual. I don't know what that definition is here. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm
missing.
certain they didn't intend for it to cover the legislature exempting themselves from certain sections of code.
Like said,
I don't think that ever should be defined as usual. It's maybe become commonplace, but
it's unusual to have a shall section of the code, and then you try to say that you exempt from a shall section. I don't know how you could possibly do that. If it was a may section of the code, it wouldn't matter, but I'd like Nolan to dig into this a little just to see if he can get us some more information on definitions and the whatnot.
Maybe it'll be too late for this year, but you could have the information for next year if you so choose to do an election.
You just don't sit-
one more year.
and at least, they can identify that they need to discuss or address the timing of it.
Or you just don't submit our budget because you couldn't get the program to work and see what shakes out.
You guys, don't be doing this to me.
I'm not the only one now.
Don't be doing it. Don't stress me out here.
That's what I do. It's not like they can take away your birthday or anything.
Yeah, but they could cut us back to last year's budget, dollars.
She want to wait till those bonds are approved before she does that.
Good point, good point.
I agree with you, Jason. It's awful frustrating, but I guess I'm to the point where they're gonna do it no matter what we do. They're gonna do whatever they want. I know we have to take a stand. Somebody has to.
But if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it the right way, and they didn't do it the right way.
I understand, but
So that's where, to me, playing the game, maybe even approve it, and then a week later say, wait a minute, it's not even viable, and then we can at least send them minutes and talk to our legislatures, or have ISAC bring it up, or, it's too late to probably get anything done this legislative year.
Yeah, because he's not, Nolan won't get an AG's opinion by next week.
Make that motion.
But you can get some clarification on some definitions and how exactly that works.
And I'm content waiting until next week. If the 14th, the 15th is what they identify in code, I'd be willing to talk with Nolan this week and get his opinions and readdress it next week if you guys are willing. I'm not gonna keep kicking a dead horse, or I don't wanna rush into things either, but,
I'd stick it on next agenda.
all right, thanks for the time, guys.
Budget reviews? Anything to review?
No, not really. I haven't changed anything, because I don't know anything about public safety.
That's pretty good.
What is
Back
the
one down.
public safety meeting?
Next Wednesday.
Sandy back down to the 150 instead of the 42. What was it, 250 or 130?
We had 260 budgeted for a new
Yeah.
ambulance.
And she went down to 130, is
She
what
did?
she said.
Okay. Nolan might need to talk to you again. He was gonna do some checking.
I thought her budget was 331.
Yeah, it is 331. She went down to 130 for towards an ambulance.
So change that to 130 then?
Yeah,
Okay.
but other than that, I think it's,
But then,
That's instead of 260?
yeah.
okay. Then what about the transfers in for the ambulance? Do you wanna start putting that in next year's budget to do a transfer from general into like a separate fund, or what's your goal there?
Next year. Or
Next fiscal year?
even this year. Because then next year we won't have to put up any money to the rest of the ambulance. And I'd like to see us do that every year.
I would like us to retain what the costs associated with PCC were, and then just what the revenue above that is.
Because roughly we pay about 30,000 into PCC every year, and we get roughly 200,000 back. It just depends on the calls.
But I'd like to see the extra stay in a separate account.
So if we spend 25,000 in PCC and we collected 200,000, put 175 into an ambulance fund, is that what you're thinking? Okay. Then what about, so do you want to do it this year? If it's this year, then I can still get it in the budget amendment for the 27th. If you want to do that transfer, or if you just want to leave it, or
Cause
what?
we'll get revenue from that, what,
Till June 30. I think she's at 110,000, I believe.
so it'll be in this fiscal year. So
Yes.
yeah, then I guess you might as well do the amendment.
Okay, so then what do you want me to transfer then for, to be included in the budget amendment on the 27th?
The fund's also gotta pay back general fund to some
Yeah,
extent, right? So do
$100,000.
we just offset those two, or do you do it in two different transactions?
Well, the board approved as an interfund transfer, interfund loan, so they have to pay that back by June 30. If they don't pay that back by June 30, then we gotta hold a public hearing, and so I'm trying to avoid that for publication cost.
Cause the bakers charge too much money.
That's usually how that works.
Some darn reporters that get it.
So,
You ready, Leroy? Thank you.
so, okay, so then for next fiscal year, I can do like, I think she's projecting 250,000. You know, I don't know if she'll get that much. So do 175, 200 for next fiscal year. And for this fiscal year, I could do 100, I don't
Say
know.
150
For this fiscal year?
175 next year, or
So transfer, okay.
they're gonna have to pay it back, we might as well transfer it to them.
Yeah, right now, they don't have enough money in their fund to do that, so hopefully, time, taxes come around, they'll be okay. This, EMS is such a, such a new thing, we're just trial and error, so.
Most of this with that many calls that are coming, almost at a point of, where do we stop with volunteers and go full-time? Because I know 600 calls isn't enough for full-time. But it's sure worth need volunteers.
Yeah, so Nolan will probably have to change his budget, but I haven't heard back from his figures yet. I know public safety, with keeping it the same, we're under $1 per thousand for the rural people. So that went down because the valuations went up, so. I haven't heard any more from them, so I don't know about the cities or anything.
That's what everybody else sounds like they're gonna do, so.
Yeah, and I made that change last week. I know we're like at 96 cents, I think, instead of the $1.50, so.
Jason, you were saying on public safety, if we don't all agree, then it goes back to the original budget?
I think that's open interpretation too, but go back to code 2080 as
You
to
mentioned
what.
that last week, and I didn't realize that, so.
I don't know where I had that at, but. Be quicker to grab a new 2080.
I don't think we have new ones in here.
Well, that hasn't changed, has it? The newest version?
One would vote, or just a majority? How does that?
It's been called unanimous consent. That's not the language in the code, but if everyone agrees, basically, is what it says. So if one doesn't agree, then you can't use that funding approach, which would allow you to fund the budget lower than what was presented. My concern is, the language says that if you're not doing that, then you fund the budget
The way it's presented.
under a different approach, per capita or percent of use, but I'm concerned that it would tie you to fully funding the budget that was presented or approved.
Is it 28? Do you know what?
180, isn't it?
You know what, nuts again.
And that's what I understand.
I do.
Yeah, and,
I know where Ashton stands. I know where Harris stands.
of the following methods shall be used by the Public Safety Commission for computing the amount of revenue deemed necessary for operation of the district. Per capita cost, yeah, unless you can deem that the revenue needed, if you take action saying the revenue needed is lower than what the budget identifies, and then apply it, but I'd get a legal opinion far better than mine on that.
I don't like to see what happens.
Can the city reduces it then, or they have to keep it the same, at
C
least the
says
same,
any
right?
other method agreed to by each city and county member of the district. That to me clearly lets you fund below what the budget was presented. The other ones, I'm afraid, could be interpreted differently. I don't know.
I mean, Kevin never spends all his expenses ever.
Well, fund balance keeps going up. Ding,
Yeah.
200,000 every year.
Yeah. I mean, he never spends his whole budget. I don't know if he receives all the revenues that he
He's
expects
thrifty.
to.
He does a good
Yeah.
job.
But
Another thought I've had, I haven't fleshed this one out. We don't use general fund dollars to support public safety. We don't really use general fund dollars to support
Well,
public safety.
We transferred 248,000 to them, out of the general fund. We're giving 248,695 is what we take out of the general fund to get into public, to give to public safety, and the rest comes out of the rural, out of the public safety levy.
Otherwise you'd hit your $1.50.
I just wondered, do we increase the county's general fund portion because every city resident's gonna pay on their property tax too, and then decrease the rural contribution for the county and the city's contributions equivalently? I don't know what word I'm looking for, but that was more generated out of the cities. I think are gonna be hit harder with the levy limitations in the county. It'd be a way to partner with them in response to that legislation. Same citizens would be paying it, just to a different levy or fund, I guess, is what ran through my mind, but I don't know that needs to be done this year, especially if we can get to an agreed position on public safety, but it might be worth considering going forward.
Well, hopefully everybody can just play nice and come up with an agreement.
Yeah. Good.
Other business. We've got a field trip down to the basement to look at a pipe.
I don't like field trips.
Field trips get expensive.
Reggie's supposed to be around too to explain what Harold was trying to get at.
Yeah, that was a good meal the other night, Michelle.
It was, that roast beef was, whew, that was really good.
I've never heard of a bad meal coming out of that place.
Mm-mm.
Well, and then it was ham.
Oh, was that ham? I
Yeah.
didn't take that,
Yeah,
but
it was good, it was good. Everything was good.
yeah, it was excellent.
I don't know how much money they made.
You want to read all about it?
No.
I wish I would've-
Figured out, Leroy, you bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
I wish I would have bid on that, Cuddy's thing, that
Yeah.
2-night stay, because I went really cheap, but I didn't know,
What did that end up bringing?
what, $250 for 2-night stay? That was, but then it's like, how do I get my
Was
kids
that Teddy's
there?
or that West?
Or maybe it wasn't Cuddy's, maybe it
Not
was,
Teddy's, it was,
maybe it was something else.
what's the other one on that side of the lake?
Village West?
Oh,
Village
yeah,
West,
yeah, I
I
should
think
have,
they get that from Martin Skip off, I think.
oh, I should have voted, or went on that, but I didn't, because I didn't know how, it's hard enough just get my family together to go to the Omaha Zoo this summer, so I was like, if I got something else, it's gonna be hard.
I give up on trying to get everybody together to go someplace.
Well, we got a house for June 21st and 22nd in Omaha, so sleeps 7 bedrooms, so there's 16 of us going.
When we had everybody who went to Florida,
Mhm.
we each had our own apartment.
Yeah,
I
you
thought
almost
that was
need that.
good.
Yeah, you need to get away from each other.
I
Especially
thought that worked very well.
because, you know, our kids kind of discipline differently sometimes. So stay away.
Michelle, can you add to next week's agenda for 9 o'clock to disperse the grant checks from the community foundation to the sheriff's department and conservation and all that?
How long will that take?
Maybe 10 minutes.
So the department has like at 9:10 then, or 9:15, because you got the assessors conference board at 8:30
Oh,
next
yeah, we
week.
aren't starting until 9, are we?
You're not starting until 9.
Yeah, yeah. Just do that.
Do that first thing, and then at 9:15 department heads, okay? Just so you guys remember, it's Wednesday next week, not Tuesday.
You may need to send out a reminder. But when you send out the agenda, highlight in red or something on there.
I'll try to remember.
Make the letters about that big.
Any other future agenda items?
I'd make a motion on that last thing on the agenda.
Do we have support?
Support.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
And for downstairs, you made that motion to fix the stink pipe, and did you second it, right? Or
Yeah.
did you second it?
Yeah.
Oh, Terry did, okay.
Mike did.
Did you? You did instead of Terry? Okay. Okay,
He made the motion to replace the pipes
and the thing, and that died from lack of
just the
support, and you
touching
just did the fix the pipes, okay? Okay,
So, have a great 8 days.